Hi, my name is Bjorn Forsberg. I'm a Shopify app developer. I've been building apps since 2011. Welcome to our house. Come on in. We recently moved in here in July when COVID hit, or during COVID. So it's all quite new for us as well. So we're getting it into shape. But I'll show you outside first. So we're usually having some breakfast here when the sun's out. Or I'm trying to make pizzas on our pizza oven. I'm not very good at it yet, but practice makes perfect. If we come through over here, we have our summer oasis. Nice spot to hang out. I'll show you the backyard. And here's the backyard where the kids are on the trampoline causing trouble. Come on through to the house. Dining area, where we also do creative things with the kids, homework and things like that. And then the kitchen, where I like to spend a lot of my time. I love to cook and go to the office. This is my office. Through here is a garage where we're trying to set up a little gym. But in here, my favorite things are definitely this monitor. I started using it years ago. Another thing is my whiteboard wall, which is just a paint that you use to roll on, and it becomes a whiteboard. And then my newest addition is this here, and it's not just artwork, but it's actually got some pretty big speakers inside as well, so you get some good music while I'm working. Hang out here most of the time. Luckily there's some natural light coming from above. It's been nice having you visit, and follow me on Twitter and say hi. Thank you.
Thank you, Bjorn, for taking us through your beautiful workspace. Do find him on Twitter, because I've actually been following Bjorn for a few years now, and he's a wonderfully open and very honest entrepreneur. And he talks a lot about how he's grown his app business over the years, shares some really great insights. Okay. Hello, bonjour, hola, ciao, guten tag, konnichiwa, ni hao. That's 2 years of Duolingo finally paying off for me. Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to our very first Shopify Partner Town Hall of 2021. I'm Jason Cormier, one of the partner managers here at Shopify. I'm so excited to be with you here today. I'm coming to you today from my own bedroom office in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. Not quite as stylish as Bjorn's, but it'll do. I do want to start by first acknowledging the Wurundjeri people, who are the traditional custodians of this land. I would also like to pay respect to the elders, both past and present, of the Kulin Nation, and extend that respect to other Indigenous Australians who may be present today. So, if this is your first Partner Town Hall, that is amazing. We are so happy to have you here. If you're returning, that's good too. It's great to have you back with us. Hopefully it means we're doing a good job. Partner Town Hall has become a favorite community tradition where we share timely product announcements and updates for Shopify developers and partners. It's a way for us to stay connected to you, and it's a place for you to come and learn about new updates directly from Shopify product teams and our leadership. Just before we get into that, though, something else I wanted to acknowledge today is Black History Month, which happens in February in North America and July here in Australia. Although no matter what the calendar happens to say, we think it's always a good time to amplify Black-owned businesses. And so I wanted to quickly speak to an initiative Shopify has called 1 Million Black Businesses. This past October, Shopify and an organization called Operation Hope came together and committed to helping create 1 million Black-owned businesses by 2030. The initiative intends to focus on critical tools for business success, such as technology, educational programs, and greater access to capital to help fuel their business growth. Together, we aim to reduce obstacles for Black business owners, encouraging more aspiring Black entrepreneurs to start and scale businesses, and ultimately help level the playing field. We believe that a world with more voices in commerce is better for both businesses and consumers. Entrepreneurship is about economic opportunities and empowerment, and so that's what 1 Million Black Businesses is all about. For more information about 1 Million Black Businesses, and importantly, to nominate a Black-owned business to participate in the initiative, please head to operationhope.org. Write that one down, will you? operationhope.org. Now, a quick overview agenda of what you're going to hear today. New feature announcements, right? Always a popular topic. My good mate and Aussie expat Cole is going to join us to speak to some of the work we're doing to help merchants sell internationally. This includes changes around Brexit and VAT regulations, tax-inclusive pricing, and international pricing. I'm really excited about those two in particular because I know they're a big deal for merchants in our region. Then Raheem is going to share updates for retail partners, so you'll hear about pickup availability for the online storefront. And Alex, yet another proud Australian, go Aussie, will come on and speak to the new Polaris UI kit, Polaris V6 and the style guide. Then we'll be welcoming Fatima Yusuf, Director of Partnerships, along with Glen Coates, our VP of Product, and yet another Aussie, who will be talking about commerce trends for 2021. Lastly, Fatima and Glen will be opening the floor to you for a Q&A. So make sure you submit your questions via Slido, that's sli.do, and use the event code ShopifyPTH. You'll find us in there. As always, we want this Partner Town Hall to spark conversations and inspire new connections. So please join the conversation. Use hashtag Shopify Partner Town Hall on your socials and join our Partner Town Hall Slack channel and chat with our community and the occasional shopper folk like me who hang out in there. In real time, we can talk about everything you're hearing today. So now, without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce my good mate, Cole Atkinson. Take it away, buddy.
Hey everyone, my name's Cole. I'm a product manager on our cross-border team working on our international foundations products here at Shopify. Today, I'm really excited to take you through improvements we've been making to international pricing, which allows merchants to set either price adjustments or product-specific pricing by country. We're hoping to have this out into the market sometime in the next month or so. I'm going to take you through some different buyer experiences from Default Global, a store based in Canada, with everything being driven from that single Shopify store. Here on the .ca experience, nothing's really out of the ordinary. As you can see, everything shows our base prices in Canadian dollars, taxes are excluded, and our blue tuxedo increases in price as the size goes up. When the buyer proceeds to check out, taxes are added to the purchase price, as someone in Canada would reasonably expect. This time for our US friends to the south, when we switch to the .com experience, my pricing is handled here automatically with a real-time FX rate, converting the prices to US dollars, and I round out all those prices with a rounding rule. So it goes up to the next 99 cents for them to stay nice and clean. Again, as a buyer in the US would expect, prices are also displayed exclusive of tax on the product page, and any applicable taxes are added as a separate line at checkout. But let's say this time for sales to the United Kingdom, I need to take some more control over my pricing. So this time I've made a manual margin adjustment of plus 5% on top of the automatic FX rate. So it brings the price in pounds up just slightly. And I do this from the United Kingdom country settings in the admin. As you can see for our customers in the UK, this time the price includes 20% VAT. However, for the XXL size, I've actually imported a specific price of $89.99 GBP here. So the same as what it was in Canadian dollars. The manufacturer for this product or this size sets a required MSRP. So for these situations, I can actually import a specific price list for all or some of the products that I need to do that for. Coming through to the cart page, UK VAT is again reflected as included. And the same thing flows through to checkout with everything included in the purchase price. We'll then have shipping calculated and added on top. But as you can see, the purchase price is all inclusive of the VAT as a UK buyer would expect. For the last one here, let's look at the same UK buyer, but this time they ignore a recommendation to switch countries because they notice that the XXL tuxedo is the same value of $89.99. So, same in GBP as Canadian dollars. So this is going to be cheaper for me. Why wouldn't I do that instead? But once they get to checkout and actually go to complete that purchase with the UK shipping address, we'll see something slightly different happen. Because as a merchant, I've set a specific price in British pounds, I want that price to be honored based on the shipping address of the buyer. So when they actually try to do this, it actually reverts back to the $89.99 GBP price, taxes are included, and shipping added on top, the same as what we saw previously. So there we have it, a great example of our new international pricing tools, making it easy for merchants to sell their product globally. That could be with FX rates, margin adjustments, or specific price lists, all powered from a single Shopify store. As I mentioned, we're really, really excited to start getting this in the hands of our merchants from sometime in the next month. Next up, I'm going to hand over to Raheem.
Thanks, Cole. I'm Raheem, and I'm a product lead here on the retail team. COVID-19 had a massive impact on all of our retail businesses, and many of them were forced to shut down during that time, either temporarily or altogether. Many of those that shut down temporarily were able to move their sales online, and that became a focus for those merchants. For those that did and that were using Shopify Point of Sale, they were able to recover most of their lost in-person sales in a matter of 7 weeks, which is pretty incredible. Since then, we've seen a gradual recovery of sales of those retail businesses and of retail in general. And we continue to see that as lockdowns are eased, or as merchants have shifted some of their retail operations to be more about a fulfillment hub for their online store and less about in-person sales. Buy online, pickup in store has become critical in their workflows. And in Q4 of this year, we launched a way for them to connect that experience with their online store in pickup availability on the online storefront. Pickup availability complements the local pickup option at checkout by letting shoppers know whether each item they're browsing is in stock and available for pickup at a nearby location. It does this directly from the product page, so they don't have to wait until they get to checkout to see if they can pick up something. After enabling local pickup as a delivery method on the store, pickup availability is automatically visible on the product page on a theme that supports the feature. We use the buyer's IP address to automatically sort locations by proximity to the buyer. We also built an optional feature for buyer input that can use a browser location or city or postal code input. And we take that latitude and longitude, and we're able to then sort the list of locations by kilometers and miles and give you a more granular view of what's closest to you. As I mentioned, you need to have a theme that has this feature installed for the functionality to work, and it's currently available out of the box for all Shopify merchants on the debut theme. Since the launch in October, we've had tremendous response from the theme partner community, and there's over 29 theme partners who've already implemented this on their various themes that they offer. So this is really a call to partners to, one, help your merchants get up to speed and get set up with buy online, pickup in store so it can help them grow during the pandemic and after. And two, help them connect these experiences by helping them implement this feature on their online store theme and even extend it to create a better buyer experience with even more granular location details. Thank you to all the theme partners who've already incorporated this into your themes and provided us with valuable feedback along the way. Our team's always available to help, and we really appreciate what you've done so far. For any further questions, please ask in the Theme Partner Slack channel or in the Partner Slack channel as well. Now, for any partners who are already working with brick and mortar stores or who are interested in working with merchants who sell in person, we're happy to announce the launch of our Retail Partnerships Program. This program will provide you with the support and guidance you need to truly become an omnichannel agency. And we believe that the future of agency work is omnichannel, much like we believe that the future of commerce is omnichannel. For more info on the program, scan the QR code on the screen below to learn more. And now over to Alex Page, who's going to chat with you about Polaris.
Thank you. So I'm Alex. I'm a front-end development manager working on the Polaris design system. We love Polaris, and our team has been working tirelessly to deliver the best design and development tools. Polaris helps you build a great experience for all of Shopify merchants, whether you're just starting out or building complex applications. At the start of 2020, we did just that. We paused all systems work on Polaris to build critical applications that our merchants needed during COVID. Throughout that process, we learned about the friction and challenges partners face every day when using Polaris. It's time for Polaris to take a giant leap forwards. Polaris version 6 is the starting point of the next generation of design systems at Shopify. Over the past year, we have started to define and build foundations that will enable our system to provide the best experience for your users, adapting to their different environments, audiences, devices, or tasks. Polaris version 6 includes a refreshed visual style, a clean and simple style that makes things feel approachable and efficient, faster performance, elegant code and lightweight assets mean that pages load more quickly, future friendliness, built for flexibility, design tokens, a new infrastructure lets us iterate easily across experiences, purposeful brand presence. We're being more intentional about when the Shopify brand comes forward and when it takes a back seat. This helps to direct users' focus to where it matters most. Familiarity across experiences. new patterns and guidelines help us design a wide variety of experiences that still feel like Shopify. And finally, accessibility. We've refactored many of our components with accessibility in mind from the start. So from today, you can start using Polaris version 6 in many different ways. Our website, polaris.shopify.com, to find guidance, documentation, and best practices. Our NPM package at Shopify/Polaris can be installed or updated to version 6. And our Figma UI kit can now be used at figma.com/Shopify, jam-packed with all the new features like auto layout and variants. So thank you again to all of our amazing partners for your feedback and contributions over the past year. They helped shape Polaris into what it is today, and we look forward to 2021, bringing even more adaptability to Polaris. So now we're going over to Glen Coates, VP of Product, and Fatima, Director of Partnerships, who are having a fireside chat about the trends of commerce in 2021.
Welcome to our first fireside chat of 2021. I'm super excited to be here today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Fatima, and I'm Director of Partnerships for our ecosystem here at Shopify. And today I'm joined by Glen Coates, who I'm super pumped is here with us. Glen recently took over all of Shopify's core products, so he's now our VP of Product, and that spans across developer platform, online store, and a whole host of other things. So myself and honestly everyone on this call should be super excited that he's taken on this role, because he definitely understands developers inside out as a founder himself. So let me actually throw it over to him, and Glen, you can probably introduce yourself even better than I can.
Thanks, Fatima. Hi everyone. Some of you may remember me from the town hall we did last year around checkout and subscriptions, but as Fatima mentioned, I've taken over a core product at Shopify, which obviously I'm super thrilled and super humbled to have the opportunity to do. I think there's so much we have ahead of us in terms of what we can do to make things better for our core product, and particularly our core platform. The quick TLDR on me is I joined Shopify as part of the Handshake acquisition. I was one of the founders of that company. Early in my Shopify tenure, I focused on the B2B wholesale space, which is what Handshake was all about. I spent most of last year running checkout at Shopify, and some of you would have seen some of the pieces of that in the past kind of 3 to 6 months come out. And I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that today. Some of the things that went well, some of the things that we learned through that. And now, I'm looking at all of core product at Shopify. And, you know, for this town hall today, I think the most important thing to probably touch on is really how I'm thinking and how all of us are thinking about core, not just as a product that merchants use and has to be super approachable and super simple and all those things that Shopify is known for, but how we take Shopify from being the best commerce product in the world to being the best commerce platform in the world, and how that means we're thinking about everything we do in core through the lens of extensibility. Like how are we improving the APIs that developers build on, and how are we honestly thinking about our platform through the lens of dog fooding it, right? Like, are we really looking at everything that's done in Shopify as like, are we building on the same tools as everyone else? Are we using the same APIs as everyone else? Are we really experiencing what it's like to build on Shopify and forcing ourselves to make it better through that lens? But yeah, I think it's sort of, I don't think this is a very original thought, but you know, developers are really shaping the future of the planet at this point. You know, like the great platforms that are out there in the world are really the kind of proving grounds of where innovation really rests at this point. And so, like we as Shopify need to, I think we're a merchant obsessed company. I think it's right that that's our North Star. but I think we need to be paying just as much attention to how we're making Shopify a great platform to build on, build software on, as much as it is a great platform to build a business on. And so I hope, I mean, you guys can hold me accountable to, putting my money where my mouth is on that. But I think if anything, that has to be the biggest kind of up leveling in our perspective and changing the way that we do things. And that's what kind of my number one priority.
That's awesome. Yeah, definitely. I know a lot of people will be holding us both to that, but I can honestly say, like, working closely with Glen over the last year, it is really incredible how he thinks platform first, and just like really understands the kind of infinite game that we're all working on together. And the other reason I think this is so important is because, I mean, all of us, it's been a tough year for everyone, and I know all of us are feeling it, and our merchants are definitely feeling it. And we've seen, Shopify's merchant base is growing more diverse by the day. All kinds of merchants are joining us from all over the world that are sort of trying to navigate this future of commerce. And so we all need to be more aligned than ever on really helping them, and that takes all of us for sure.
I think the point of it taking all of us is a really important one, Fatima, and I think. Oh, sorry to cut you off there.
No, go ahead. I froze. Go for it.
I think it's easy to say, like, developers are shaping the future of the planet, and like big nod to developers and all of that. But like the big why behind that is, Shopify started out as a Canadian company, started out with a largely, North American customer base to begin with. And obviously we've expanded globally over time. But I think the thing that we have to acknowledge as Shopify is that, if our mission is to make commerce better for everyone, like everyone is a pretty diverse group, different geographies, different business models, different industries, different stages of growth. Like there's a lot of diversity in everyone. And we will never be able to build like the idea of a one best product that will work for everyone is essentially a fiction. And so, exactly. If we're going to make that actually work, and we need to have a platform that allows third-party developers who understand a particular niche of the market, however you want to slice that. There's always going to be a niche of a market that people who don't work at Shopify are experts in, are passionate about. And if we do our job well, the line between a first-party Shopify experience that's kind of quote unquote in the box and a third-party developer experience in terms of like what merchants see, that line should increasingly go away. It should be increasingly unclear, what part of their day-to-day work in Shopify is sort of first-party Shopify versus third-party partner ecosystem provided. In the same way that, over time, the difference between the apps that are included on your iPhone that ship in the box that are made by Apple and the apps that are made by third-party developers, like that line it's still visible in some places, but it's increasingly irrelevant to most iPhone users. And if we do our jobs well, like Shopify should become like that over time.
Totally, which means we're all also working from the same sort of standards and quality bar and performance bar, so that experience is seamless for a merchant, regardless of what options they're using. And it is just so important to recognize that we do have such diverse corners of the merchant base, and a merchant selling in Japan is going to need something totally different than a merchant in the US. Someone selling honey locally versus like a merchant selling beauty products globally. Like there's just so much diversity. So I honestly think we're in a really exciting time because we've only just begun, and there's a lot of opportunity for the ecosystem going forward. So I actually want to take us directly into some of the questions, only because you guys asked us some really hard, meaty questions, and we want to make sure we get to them. So I'm going to start with some of the hardest ones first that we saw that you upvoted. So the first question we have here is, what is happening with the future of online store, aka sections everywhere? We know there was a partner town hall before this that was going to focus on that. So we are, we do have an update for you, and I'm going to pass it to Glenn.
Great. I guess I'll just start here by acknowledging, yeah, like we said we were going to do a thing a couple of years ago, and like that didn't happen. Our reasons are good, but it doesn't change the fact that like we didn't deliver on what we said. We had an approach for sections everywhere a couple of years ago that we were feeling great about, and as we kind of played that out further, it became increasingly clear that the old approach wasn't going to scale in the way that we wanted it to, for both like in terms of the merchant experience and in terms of the developer kind of maintenance burden that would have kind of come out of that approach. So there was some rough edges that we discovered on that approach, and so we kind of went back to the drawing board a little bit there. On balance, I think it was the right call, because, we have to be super mindful that like when we put a platform out there for people to build on, for theme developers, for app developers to build on, it's really painful for the ecosystem if we then significantly change that platform soon after. And so there's a little bit of a measure twice, cut once kind of mentality that we have to hold up here. But that doesn't change the fact that having a high quality bar and having a bias towards things that will stand the test of time doesn't let us off the hook of like when we say something's going to happen, it should actually happen. And so I'll just acknowledge that we didn't do that. We probably burned some trust with the partner community there, and it's on us to rebuild that trust. That said, we plan to ship the update to the online store that includes the kind of rethought through sections everywhere at Unite this year, which is going to come in second quarter. We think we've moved the ball really far forward from the last time you guys saw this. I think you're going to be really excited by what we bring out. But I do want to acknowledge that it has been a long time coming, and that you guys should expect a lot from us. And that's what we plan to deliver on.
Thanks, Glenn. Yeah, and it totally sort of goes back to what you were saying before of like, it needs to be, solid enough that we're all building on it, whether it's first party or third party. And we want to make sure we get that right. So the next question is somewhat related, but I know Glenn and I definitely want to be very transparent with you guys on all of this. So as partners, we've lost a lot of faith in the ability for Shopify to deliver on the roadmap in a timely manner. A great example is sections everywhere. What's going on with the massive delays of product features, and what's being done about it?
Yeah. So I think I touched on that in the previous answer. Like being candid. So I've been at Shopify, almost 2 years now, pushing a year and a half. And I think culturally, like one of the biggest evolutions that Shopify has had to go through and is going through, and again, this kind of goes back to like what my top priority is. There's a difference in mindset that needs to be kind of wrangled, and it's a non-trivial difference in mindset, which is so for the people who are in product development at Shopify, and particularly people who are in product development at in Shopify Core, the question is, and the answer could be different depending on the area, but there's a question about approach, which is it our job to come up with the one best product for everyone? Or is it our job to build a platform that allows third-party developers to come up with multiple best right answers for everyone, right? And I think maybe in previous years, some of the challenges that we've experienced in like hitting shipping deadlines have been as a result of maybe answering the wrong question in a given area, right? And so if the problem you are trying to solve is by its very nature diverse, and you come at that problem with the lens of it's our job to come up with the one best answer that's going to work for everyone, you are going to run into a wall eventually, which is like, but there isn't just one answer, right?
Exactly.
And so I think part of the change that we're making here is, how do we build platforms that allow multiple right answers to exist? I think what we did last year with subscriptions and post-purchase upsells and some of the things we're looking at in the Checkout One platform, these are all, the beginning signs that you all will see, or maybe you've already seen with, okay, we're trying to make the right APIs, the right tools available that are going to really enable you guys to innovate into those multiple right answers. But yeah, to go directly at the question, like, there have been delays, and we have to own that. And I think part of it was maybe not understanding, like, which of those two questions are we answering here? Are we trying to build the one product, or are we trying to build a platform that enables multiple products? And I think we've kind of changed our perspective there pretty considerably, which should help us zero in what we need to ship in order to enable you guys to solve those niches and those specific use cases that you guys are experts in and passionate about.
Totally. And I think the other side of that equation is like how we communicate to you all, and it basically like how easy we make it for you to understand how to build on these APIs and what the difference is between what you were doing before and what you sort of need to do going forward. So there's been lots of lessons learned, and we've taken your feedback really seriously on that as well. We have, like, between Glen and our teams, like, we have teams really, really dedicated to leveling up, like, the docs and the tutorials that we provide every time something gets released. We learned even from this last subscriptions rollout, there's a new FAQ that we just released that actually gives you roadmap insight into what's coming over the next couple of quarters, so that you don't just have what the APIs you have in your hands today, but you understand how that what's rolling out a little bit later into the future, so you can plan accordingly. And we want to just raise the bar so that we do that every single time, and it's clear to you, what's shipping, but also giving you a little bit of insight into what's coming next, because we understand that you're investing significant parts of your business energy into making this happen and trying to follow along on the things that Shopify is shipping. So there's definitely commitment on both of our sides. And, like Glen said earlier, there's been some changes internally, and we've been shifting to make this, to really, like, make sure that this becomes a reality.
Last thing I'll say on this point is just, I think there is there's a sweet spot we need to strike with partners, and even in the way that we design our platforms. You could think of, like, this spectrum that's, like, on one end, like, there is no platform. It's a very fixed product that does exactly one thing, and, like, right, that one needs to, like, it really needs to be good for a lot of people if you're going to take that approach. There's one on the other side, which is, well, we have these APIs, they're very unopinionated. You can do whatever you want with them, but, like, it's super, like, Wild West, not very opinionated about what you're going to do with it. And there's kind of a sweet spot in the middle, which is, how do we make the APIs powerful enough where, like, multiple right solutions can be built on top of it, and there is, like, a lot of developer freedom, and there's a lot of power to solve specific problems with it, but also making sure that the types of data and workflow that need to be inside Shopify, so that merchants and other apps can actually leverage them in a predictable way, has been thought through, and is in the platform, so that you create that leverage, right? It's one thing to enable APIs that are just super free form, but that can make it difficult when other apps may want to kind of talk to each other through some kind of layer of consistency that Shopify understands in the middle. And so I think what we're trying to do, and you guys should, we're going to welcome your feedback on, like, how well we're doing this job, is, like, we don't want to be all the way on one side, which is, okay, well, it's just, there is no platform, and, like, just take it as it is. And we don't want to be on the other side where it's like the Wild West. We want to hit that middle spot where Shopify has some, like, really key primitives that create leverage across the platform for both developers and merchants, but there still is all of that power and freedom to create those specific solutions to specific merchant problems.
Totally. I love that. Okay, the next question, it's a little bit more specific. These next two questions are a little bit more specific, Glen, on the roadmap, but Any update on additional payment gateway support for post-purchase upsells, such as Apple Pay, PayPal, Affirm, etc.?
Yeah, so two things to share here, and I'm sure like there'll be more specific comms on this through the developer channels. But on the wallet side, we plan to add support for Shop Pay and PayPal Express in the first half of this year. Those are sort of near-term priorities. Hopefully, we get there sooner than later. But first half of the year is kind of the backstop forecast. On the payment gateway side, we're looking to add support for Braintree and PayPal Pro in the first half of this year. And so, yeah, between the wallets and the payment gateways, we're looking to expand support in a few different directions sooner than later.
Awesome. Is there a roadmap to expose Argo components during checkout, such as for cart bumps?
Yeah, so for those of you paying attention to post-purchase upsells, you saw that we came out with Argo last year. That was exposed in both the post-purchase extension for checkout. It was also exposed in the product page extension for subscriptions. You have, I guess whoever asked this question has kind of predicted the obvious next step here, which is great, we made Argo available on the post-purchase side of checkout. Are we going to go pre-purchase? The answer is yes. We're currently working on a plan. So we're currently working on extension points through the pre-purchase journey in checkout that are going to make Argo available so that app developers can bring out apps that will have in checkout extension points at the places that you need them to exist, so that you can build apps that will work inside of the checkout, abiding by all of the styling, all of the performance and everything that we want from checkout, but also have upgrade safety. So it won't kind of fall behind the upgrade cycle and the difficulties of checkout.liquid. It'll be something that just is automatically kept at the edge version of checkout at all times without having to incur that upgrade burden that you might have seen in the past.
Awesome. So the next question, improving online store speed is very important. Are there steps Shopify is taking to help merchants find apps that improve store speed? So I can start with this one, and then I'll throw it to you, Glenn. So short answer is yes. We know performance is critical for merchants, and it's one of the biggest pain points that merchants can have with apps. So there's a couple of things on the go right now. We've actually introduced new minimum performance requirements to be listed in the Shopify App Store, and we've also shifted the ranking algorithm to weight performance more heavily. So highly performant apps will be suggested in recommendations and other places that we promote apps to merchants. We've also posted recommendations in our forums of how to improve apps like store speed and how to get rid of sort of that extra code that apps can sometimes leave behind. If you specifically have an app that might have been slowing down merchant stores or haven't been meeting the performance standards, you would have heard from our team within the last couple of days. If you haven't already, you'll hear soon, so that we can work together towards rectifying that matter. And I'll throw it to Glenn for a couple points on the storefront renderer as well, if you want to add to that.
Sure. So I think folks on this call may have kind of seen some of this already, but for those who haven't, we've massively upgraded the storefront liquid renderer over the past year or two. The new renderer has been rolled out almost to 100% of merchants at this point, kind of silently, like no one had to do anything. It's just a benefit that they get. Depending on the theme that a particular merchant is running, like the speed up that they would see would be kind of vary, but kind of finger in the air, like people could expect to see anywhere from kind of a 4x to a 10x speed improvement, with kind of the big caveat going back to what you just said, Fatima, which is apps, depending on how they're written and depending on how their code interacts with the rest of the page, could have pretty severe performance impacts. So for a unmodified theme, the performance impacts could be anywhere from kind of 4 to 10x improvements in speed. But the apps that happen to be installed in a given shop will also have a big impact. And so some of the stuff that you're talking about, us improving there, will go a long way. I'd also call out that these benefits will have a particular impact because it's deploying to the edge of the CDN globally. Some of these benefits will accrue particularly to areas which have been historically far from our data centers. So, if we're talking about Japan, Australia, places like that may have seen like bigger performance issues in the past, some of those places may see things like a 20x speed up versus what they're used to. And so we're really excited to see that the benefits of Shopify really can go more evenly to everyone as we roll out some of this new infrastructure, which is pretty cool.
Awesome. This next question I've definitely been hearing a lot about. And I'm happy to say we're doing something about it. So what's being done to enhance support for partners? We end up on chat with folks on support who don't understand our issues, who can't speak to us, and we have angry clients to placate. We do the legwork to bring in clients, but get let down by Shopify. So I want to just acknowledge here that we are heavily investing in partner and developer support in 2021. We're actually kind of looking at it from end to end and redesigning the entire experience. So that's everything from technical documentation, forums, engagement, and also how you get routed to developer support. We're also building out a full developer support team. In the past, which is, obviously reflected in this question. It's been sort of a shared team, trying to understand lots of context across partners, merchants, developers. And so we're building out a dedicated developer support team, and honestly, actually rebuilding the entire routing infrastructure as well, so that you are routed to the right folks who can actually answer your questions. But you should start seeing at least like the early wins of the routing infrastructure to get you to the right folks by the end of Q1. All right. I just got a message that my internet is not good, so I hope that you all heard that.
I think the headlines came. I think the headlines came through just fine, Fatima.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Apologies. Okay, cool. Let's shift to start. Let's talk about trends. Let's talk about the future, Glenn. Biggest commerce trends for 2021. I went on a bit of a tweet storm earlier on this, so earlier in the year, which I know a lot of you responded to. So the TLDR on my side is I think the effects of COVID pushing commerce forward is still being seen. And there's a lot of awesome innovation happening to help merchants basically create, online experiences that they previously could only have offline. So like live selling, social commerce, a lot of like 3D AR and video stuff, which I'm super excited about. But I wanted to actually ask Glenn, as sort of our product and technical expert, like what are some of the trends you're seeing, and what do you think is gonna really help define the next phase of our industry?
Yeah, I think you touched on some. So I'll confess, I'm not on Twitter. I'm like too old and cranky and uncool to be on Twitter. So I missed your tweet storm.
He actually is on Twitter. He just doesn't use it. So I'm telling all of you to go follow Glenn and make him start tweeting.
I'm only on Twitter because like 10 years ago, my co-founder was like, hey, you need to be on Twitter. It'll be important one day. And so I signed up for it. And then I was like, am I done now? Can I go back to like building stuff? And he was like, okay, fine. Yeah, I mean, look, I think this is again like the least original thought ever, but like the whole thing about COVID kind of speeding the future forward 10 years is, I think, a thing. Specifically to commerce, the trends that just kind of whipped forward were, I think we've been seeing this in a while, that like the parts of commerce that were previously thought to be distinct are blending, and the fact that merchants have to kind of, where they might have done one before, they're now having to think about both. Easy ones to point out there would be like the worlds of B2B and B2C are converging very quickly. The world of like, I just do consumer or I just do wholesale That's not a thing anymore. I think that was happening anyway, but I think that just got a lot faster. So, for us as a platform, figuring out how to make that work and, really following through on making that work is important. The other obvious one is like the worlds of digital and physical, which used to be more distinct, are like really rapidly merging. We saw, local pickup, local delivery, all of those things that, just burst onto the stage at the start of COVID, like that had been happening anyway, but just like suddenly it was like, this is now life or death, like that's happening as well. So I think for any commerce platform to be successful and for any merchant's digital strategy to be successful, acknowledging that these historical boundaries between these different business models and these different ways of running a business are really blending. It's all just becoming like kind of one thing. And so having a strategy that bridges that is going to be important. I think the other thing that's like really burst onto the stage recently is just the whole privacy narrative, like the things that are happening with iOS 14, and what that means for basically the go-to-market of merchants, how that interacts with the advertising platforms, and not to bring it back to math, but like how this really changes the game on the LTV CAC equation. And I think it's only going to get more important for merchants to understand who their customers are, have a really great plan for building direct relationships with them, figuring out how to make that a genuinely valuable relationship to the customer over time. The changes in the privacy and advertising landscape are just starting to happen. And I think the changes to how browsers work have only really just started to be seen. But I think that's really going to change the way that merchants have to find and build and cultivate customer relationships over time. I think that we're only seeing the tip of the iceberg there.
Totally.
On the technical side, I mean, I've kind of covered it already, but I think, developers are shaping the future of the planet, like no question. Like it's going to be the best platforms are going to win, and so like it's on everyone in every technology category, frankly, to have a great platform strategy and actually execute on it. More specifically, I think there's also it's kind of a sub-technical trend towards serverless. Like how can the great platforms help developers externalize some of that, what would have been traditional server models into serverless capabilities of the platforms they're building on themselves? How can that massively reduce developer overhead and massively increase time to value for developers and the merchants they serve? And then last one, I think we'll spend more time on this as the kind of year plays out, but I think the other trend that we have to pay attention to, particularly in commerce, is what's happening with headless, and how the world of commerce, and particularly the world of commerce websites, is partitioning into, I guess, what I would call websites and web apps. Web apps being, the thing that is more like Figma or like Google Docs, or like a full-on custom-built, fully tailored interactive experience, versus websites being something more like the New York Times, or something that is very simple. You get all the benefits of simplicity, speed, and the thing that's driving this is, the browser evolution. We're now very deep into the browser evolution, and like what browsers can do has really, really, really come a long way. And so, as we think about how to enable the best commerce experiences for both merchants and developers, thinking about, on the one hand, how do we fully leverage the capabilities of browsers to make amazing experiences possible with a relatively thin layer on top of what browsers are now natively capable of? And then on the other hand, for when a merchant gets to the point where a much more bespoke interactive experience is appropriate, and like that's the road they want to go down, how do we make that possible? So kind of web apps versus websites, I think, is probably or maybe web apps and websites is the other piece that I think is really starting to land with commerce and needs to be paid attention to.
Totally. That's awesome. And that's really like, the infrastructure technology layer. But if you sometimes I think back to if you really simplify what commerce is, it's almost like there's three main things. You have to have a customer to sell to, you have to have a product, you have to have a way to get that product in the hands of the customer. And then there's a bunch of stuff in between of managing your business and your finances and all of that stuff. But when you think about it, there's so much innovation that's being fueled in each of those areas. And then, to meet the diverse needs that you talked about earlier in the call. And each of those mini segments are massive billion-dollar markets with a crazy amount of problems and solutions that are needed for each of those problems. And so it's just I think it's such an exciting time to be in the industry, because there's just so much ahead that all of us have to do to make merchants' lives easier.
100%. Couldn't agree more.
Awesome. So I think we're at time. Thank you so much, Glen, again, for taking the time to chat with all of us. I do want, the community to know that you can expect a little bit more of us. I'm going to be getting Glen on here more often, and you can have these fireside chats with the two of us and just ask the most, the hardest questions that you have, and we will do our best to always answer as transparently and as best as we can. So until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and thanks for joining us.